So today we are on the Jersey Boys MMA podcast. My name is Andrew, or Jiu-Jitsu Drew. As you may know me on Twitter, give me a follow. Before we get started, we all have to pay our bills. Shout out to my partner over at Bet MMA Tips, one-stop shop for betting on MMA. Follow other users, make bets, make your own picks, sell your own picks. Sign up for VIP and get all the MMA fight stats that you want. Speaking about MMA, today we have New Jersey's own MMA fighter Frankie Suavemente Perez, fighting out of Howell, New Jersey, who last fought in the UFC July 22nd of last year, and fights out of the Ricardo Almeida Jiu-Jitsu fight team out of Howell, New Jersey. So, what's up, my man? How are you doing?
Good, dog. I'm great. Just sitting here hanging out.
So, fight week is upon us. You're getting ready for Ring of Combat 63. How you feeling, man? Tell us a little bit about how's it going, how your fight camp has been going, and just fill us in.
I feel great. I'm just the weight's perfect right now, so I'm kind of just laying back, relaxing all day, sleeping all day, and then do my last big weight cut tonight. But, I feel fantastic. No aches or pains, nothing, no bumps or bruises. It's probably my first camp that I never had an issue at all, and just really counting down the minutes so I can weigh in and start drinking and enjoy my life again,
Yeah, for people who don't really know about the MMA world, these fighters, they go through a very tough week, and their moods can change right before fight week or on fight week because of the weight cuts, which are very, very tough. And Frankie is going through that right now, so thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today. So let's get right into it. For those who don't know anything about Frankie, I'll give you a little bit of background. He was in the UFC. He made his debut against Johnny Case back in 2015. Then after that fight, he actually had, which he lost by what was it, a stoppage in the third round, Frankie? It was a very good fight. I was watching it earlier.
Yeah, I got tired in the third and just kind of get.
But you also took it on short notice, correct? If I'm not mistaken, what I heard, what it was.
No excuse, man. You were just a better man.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No worries. But anyway, it just shows the heart that you have, and it's awesome that you did that. But following that fight, you fought Canada's own Sam Stout, which you absolutely stopped in the first round and looked absolutely amazing in that fight. And then you had a little bit of you pretty much, I guess you had like a moment of clarity or something where you had retired. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was just going through some family stuff at that moment. I lost my grandfather and my grandmother within within a month, right before that fight. So I just saw the way life was, man, and how short it is. And my grandmother, I only saw her once, during that camp because I was, training, and my head was wrapped up like crazy, losing, to Johnny Case, and then getting right back in the gym, and then them giving me Sam Stout, and then going through everything with my grandparents. It was just seemed like life was too short. You know what I mean? And I just needed to start enjoying it because I sacrificed my 20s, for this game. You know what I mean? And I just feel like there was more out there for me. So I was literally done at that moment. I took the year off. I got a fat bonus from the UFC, and I kind of just invested into my company and then used the rest and just traveled for a year. But I wasn't satisfied, which was crazy. I went all over the world, the country, and I just didn't want to live my life saying what if because of a family circumstance. So I decided to come back and fight, But being that I lost 2 in a row, 2 tough fights, I could have won. I just, they wanted it more than I did, I guess. It happens. They were better than me, that day. Being able to, get my wits back under me and, take that year off and, finally find the love again for this game, you know what I mean? And getting ready for Ring of Combat, it was just it was a crazy couple of years in my life, you know what I mean? But, now I'm back and I'm ready to showcase myself, my style again.
Oh, well, I'm happy that you found your fire again. And honestly, just looking at those 2 fights after the short little retirement, you looked absolutely amazing. Your striking was great. I mean, just being part of the Hikaru Almeida team, fight team, and the guys you have around you, I'm sure, you have your work put in every time you go to train with guys like Edson and all those guys and Frankie. I mean, being Jersey guys, for sure, you're definitely built tough. But anyway, moving forward, the retirement. I don't really think you. It doesn't sound like you regret it. It sounds more like you just needed a little bit of time to clear your head. You came back after you did that. Two tough fights, which I actually saw and studied a little today and yesterday, coming up to this interview. And I mean, your striking looked amazing. Those guys really couldn't handle it. And when they took you down to the ground, that was pretty much the only hiccup, I guess, if you had anything in the game. My question since that, has anything changed? Have you worked your wrestling? How have you been doing to improve that?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy, dude. Putting it together in the gym, I'm probably one of the sharpest ones that put it together really well and defend it really well, I just can't pull it together in the fight for some reason, and I just let my ego, I think, get the best of me in those fights. But at the end of the day, man, I got no excuse, no nothing. Those guys beat me, but, when you tell me you're going to come and, fight me and knock me out or whatever it is, and I'm willing to stand there and take it, and you're not willing to give it, it's a whole nother, ball game. But that's, again, my ego. I should have just went in there and just won the fight instead of just trying to prove a point. Secondly, I just sometimes I look at these fighters, in the UFC or, Ring of Combat, and I respect them to a point to where I know that I'm better than them. Once I find that happy medium where I know that I'm way better than this dude, I kind of lose my respect in the cage, and I kind of just go on cruise control, which is probably the stupidest thing you could ever do. And that's, you can see my last two fights, the Casey, he surprised me with how strong he was in the first. I came out, I ripped him apart in the second round, and then, the third round, I threw a kick, which I shouldn't have thrown, and he took me down and just held on for dear life, and Chris Way too, I got in his face right off the bat, took me down, and we were just in scrambles like the first time we fought, so it is what it is. But that's the past, I'm a better man now. I've worked a lot for this camp, I don't think Jerome is going to try to take me down, but I am ready for it, and I'm just, you live and you learn, man. You can't beat a dead horse. It's the past is the past. I lost, and that's it, They're not bad losses. I've never gotten beat up in my career ever, except for Johnny K's fight. So that's really the only loss that I consider a loss in my career, No,
100%. And even in that fight, I don't even think you really got beat up. That was just, it was just a really, really tough fight. But anyway, moving forward, like you said, the past is the past. So coming into this week, and you being a UFC veteran, and also a Ring of Combat veteran, because looking at the string of fights that you had, you've been in that ring a couple of times in Tropicana. Being in the UFC, fighting some of the top fighters in the world, and coming back to Ring of Combat this week, what can your local fans and people from New Jersey expect from you? What can they expect from Suavemente?
I'm super excited, man. Being back home, everybody's making the drive. You know what I mean? There's nothing like Ring of Combat. Like, I don't take anything away from UFC. UFC was great to me. Everybody over there, Sean Shelby, Jay, and the whole crew. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about the UFC, but to me, being in this industry for a long time, it was just another show on a bigger pedestal. But I think Ring of Combat is going to be, we're going to blow the roof off the place. You know what I mean? I got my teammates fighting that night. BJ Young, Phil Carcapa's fighting. One of my close friends is fighting, Anthony Piccini. So. And Frankie Buenafuente. So, I mean, it's going to be a hell of a night for sure, and I'm super excited. All the locals are coming out. My team's coming out. All my crazy, out of their mind friends are coming out. So, I'm expecting to come out and put on a show, It's my mother's birthday the next day, so I'm putting that weight on my shoulders as well, you know what I mean? So, there's a lot of excitement going into this, and I'm super, super excited. I really can't wait to just, smell the locker rooms, putting the gloves on, stepping onto the cage again, on that red mat, and the bleacher creatures going nuts and just getting that vibe again. Because I'm telling you, man, I fought in front of a lot of people in fighting in the UFC, but there's nothing like Ring of Combat.
Oh man, well I'm getting excited just listening to you talk about it. We'll be there doing media, and it'll be hard not to go crazy in my seat, that's for sure. But anyway, so tell me something. Having coaches like Ricardo Almeida, Mark Henry, Nick Catone, who for the most part, I mean, out of New Jersey, that's like a hidden gem, you know. They're a very, very small team, you know, compared to all the other big fight teams that you see all around the UFC or in America, period. What's the difference with those guys? What do you think that makes them different from everyone else?
They care, and I'm not saying other coaches don't care, but they can't care, other coaches and other teams, because they have 60, 70 guys on the mat that are fighting all different times, that are fighting all different people. It's like I don't care what they say. The teams like ATT or Black Zillions or MMA, like they're all great gyms. I'm not saying that they're not great gyms. They have amazing coaches, but you cannot not be able to focus for each single fighter and have a game plan for each single fighter and, watch each sparring and critique on what they did right in Monday sparring to Wednesday sparring to Thursday, and our team really, Mark Henry, Ricardo Almeida, Nick Catone, Dante Rivera, they all come together, For this camp, they all came together for me, you know what I mean? And each camp for each of our teammates, Mark is a wizard and is sick in his head when it comes to MMA, He lives and breathes this on top of making pizza, you know what I mean? And he just knows what works. Mark knows how to win. Mark knows, what works for each individual fighter. He doesn't try to, make us fight a certain way. He knows what we're all good at, and he keeps us what we're good at, and critiques what we're not good at. And Ricardo's a wizard on the mat, going over position, and they're there at every sparring. Going over, watching everybody sparring, seeing what everybody did right, seeing what everybody did wrong, and fixing it at that moment, and making sure that it's somewhat better for the next sparring. You know what I mean? And then Nick Catone puts his wrestling in there, and Dante puts his cage work in there, and it all comes together really, really well, with, Frankie being the captain, he kind of takes control of everybody's practices and stuff like that, but we're all individuals, and we all have our own set schedules, but, when you need to work on something, we all, chip in and pull you aside and try to fix on that.
And this is Frankie Edgar that you're talking about, right? Being the captain of the team?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, because that team, just watching Marlon Moraes this weekend. The way that he looks sharp out there. I can only expect if he's part of that team, I can only expect you to come out just as sharp or even sharper, man. You guys are definitely putting in work down there, and it shows. So, moving forward, coming up after this fight, I'm not saying you need to look past this fighter, because as a competitor myself, you never look past your opponent. But what do you have aspirations to ever go back to UFC? What do you want to do for your future? What is Frankie Perez's future in this fight game?
I don't know, man. I'm done putting schedules and timelines on my life. I'm just kind of taking it fight by fight. If UFC calls, I never got cut from the UFC. So everybody out there thinks I got cut or put away or whatever. I never got cut. Sean Shelby and I had Sean Shelby, my manager, had a conversation on what they wanted to do with me, because I was at the end of my contract and I was on a 2-fight losing streak. Even though they weren't bad losses, they were still losses. And he told me that they're not going to need me till the end of the year. So I told him I don't want to sit. I've already sat a year. I'm not trying to sit another year. So he gave me the opportunity to go stay active and fight at an organization. So I'm very thankful that he let me do that. And if the UFC calls, they call. If Bellator calls, they call. It is what it is. I'm done. I don't depend on these guys. I don't look at these shows any bigger than Ring of Combat or my parents' show or anything like that. It's just a bigger pedestal you're fighting on TV. At the end of the day, they're all men. They're all just different shapes and sizes, but they just happen to fight for, the MLB or the NFL of MMA. That is what it is. But for me, Frankie Perez, man, I'm going to go out there and win my fight on Friday night. give my mom an awesome birthday party, enjoy myself, eat a lot of ice cream, and then whatever happens, happens after that. I'm gonna go enjoy my summer. If the UFC calls and they need an alternate and early, for a fight, I'm here. If not, my boy Eddie Alvarez has a fight coming up, and one of my teammates Matt Caracap has got a fight coming up. So I'm gonna come back this week, help them out with training, and it is what it is. I'm just living my life day by day and enjoying it.
All right, well, bro, it sounds like you have your head on your shoulders for sure. I mean, I personally have seen you train before, so you're looking sharp. And honestly, I can't wait to see you this weekend. Lastly, just want to thank you for a couple minutes of your time today. It was a pleasure having you on the Jersey Boys MMA podcast. I'm one half. My boy, Social Media Steve, or AKA Stat Boy Steve, which you spoke to before, is the other half. We'll be doing this a lot more often. Hopefully, we can get you on the podcast again in the future. You can take this time to thank anybody if you have any sponsors or anywhere that any media outlets that anyone can find you at. Just let the people know, man.
Yeah, man. Just thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I've been doing interviews all freaking week, but I appreciate it. Always trying to help out the locals. You know what I mean?
Thank you, man. Thank you. We really, really appreciate it. I mean, we're starting this thing literally from the ground up. So having a star such as yourself on our show is definitely an honor and a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the love. I just want to thank my family, my friends, my entire team. You guys know who you are. There's so many guys out there, Ricardo, Mark Henry, Nick Catone, Dante Rivera, Elite Wrestling, Blue Dragon MMA, Bulldog, obviously, where I get Swole Life, the captain, Frankie Edgar, and obviously all my sponsors, Dead Serious, Elite Cuisine, Pure Spectrum, aka Undies, California Cold, Health Fusion, Explosive Entertainment, Pitbull Labs, True Rest, iWhite, and Central Jersey Tax Services, UIC Medical Center, and Havanki Services, man. Thanks so much for the support. June 8th, man, Suavemente is back at Ring of Combat. We're going to take over, man. You're going to see how wild it's going to get.
All right, man. Well, we're very, very excited to see you. Where can we find you on Twitter or on Instagram?
All social media, I'm at Team Frankie Perez.
All right, guys, so there you have it. Team Frankie Perez, a.k.a. Suavemente, is putting on a show this weekend. Please do not miss it. If you haven't got your tickets, get your tickets. And it's going to be fun, man, watching you come back and put on a show, man. I really, really can't wait. I'm sure New Jersey is excited. I'm sure all your followers and all your coaches are excited. I was actually on Twitter today and got to actually speak to Mark Henry a little bit, tweeting back and forth, so I know he's got you ready and sharp.